You did miss Nicole Agnomi hitting the bar, but otherwise you haven't missed much. And hopefully I was able to cover the bases there. Linda Darman now looking for Damjanovic, who again provides that little pivot in midfield and then looks to flick beyond the back line, and difficult for the Frankfurt defenders. The clearance only as far as Linda Darman, and that's something that I'm sure Nico Arnautis will be looking to address. A lot of the outlet passes are going straight to the feet of Bayern players, and that's the type of pressure that Frankfurt don't want to invite. Is now harder. Little inventive pass to Darman, can't bring it under her spell, but Caruso on the follow-up has another shot blocked, not her first of the evening in that regard. Franziska Kett out to Buhl. Buhl shadowed inside but finds harder! Well, Frankfurt will not want to give Pernilla Harder many chances of that quality. Little pocket of space inside the box, you just can't afford to give her that type of time and space. Unfortunately for Frankfurt, on this occasion, they are not punished. They should have been. Amanda Illerstedt. Bayern just loitering with that high press. They've already forced a few mistakes out of the Frankfurt backline tonight that have posed problems, but at the same time Frankfurt have started forcing a few mistakes out of the Bayern backline in the same regard. Now Agnomi, chance to turn, looking to feed the channels. Reutler was on the run, but now Mehmeti picking up the pieces. Freigang doing the same. This is what teams have to do against Bayern. Work ridiculously hard for even a half chance, but now Agnomi finds Volta in space. Kett tries to cover. Volta's cross is a good one, and Eriksson with the header. Oh, and then the block from Mehmeti on Graver's volley. Frankfurt proving their own worst enemies at both ends of the pitch, unfortunately. Agnomi was underneath it. But Eriksson with a pretty solid defensive header. Graver's volley did look from that replay like it might have been heading wide, but another moment of positivity that Frankfurt can draw from and build from. Good response to falling behind after what was a dominant opening 15 minutes, excuse me. Haven't even had 45 minutes played, but the opening 15 were quite dominant from Bayern. The opening goal does play into their hands somewhat because they can marshal the match. Now they spring forward again. Harder finds Buhl, two in the middle to aim for. Buhl tried to take on Jelle Veit out wide, but Veit did well to stay touch tight. And Nico Arnautis talked about the collective and individual quality that Bayern have, and when it comes to individual quality, few boast more than Clara Buhl. And again, Euro 2029, Clara Buhl is already a star of the show for Germany. Something tells me Euro 2029 she will be one of the stars of the tournament. And what a corner that is! To the back post, what a chance for Bayern to make it 2-0. Not converted in the end. A big let off for Eintracht Frankfurt. A look at the statistics so far. And Bayern good value for their lead. Few can question that, though. Frankfurt ever so close to that equaliser, with Anyomi hitting the bar with a header. A source of hope for the She-Eagles, and nothing lost at 1-0 down. Anyomi. Once the foul, doesn't get it, but Frankfurt stay in possession. You get the sense that Eintracht Frankfurt are growing into this game. You see there, oh, it's off the post. So close to a second from Magdalena Eriksson. Had to improvise, got a thigh to the ball of all things, but Frankfurt hit the bar, Bayern hit the post. A reprieve for both in front of goal. Initially it looked like Lena Altenburg might have made a save at the back post, instead saved by her woodwork instead. Unlikely to be the last scare that Eintracht Frankfurt have to survive tonight. The less the better, but that's easier said than done against Bayern Munchen. Harder, again afforded time, no one really putting pressure on her, tries to pick out the cross to Buhl and lets herself down in that regard. And this was the header from Anyomi that knocked all the raindrops off the frame of Ina Mahmutovic's goal. No equaliser for the home side. If they can get one before half-time, it would do their confidence and hopes in this game a world of good. Orket gives it away cheaply. Anyomi, twist and a turn. Tees up Greve, who didn't get the shot right. But again, a high press from Frankfurt, a bit more courage. And Bayern, some of their passing moves breaking down at the same way they have combined with confidence at one end. There are a couple of outlet passes proving problematic at the other. It was Nicole Anyomi who breached the Bayern penalty area before the goal kick was taken, hence the retake. And again, look at the pressure that Bayern find themselves under as they try and play out from the back. Tanikawa chopped down. Don't know where those cries are coming from, but the message was, we're being held the whole time. I don't know whether it was an Eintracht Frankfurt member of staff or a Bayern member making the point, but either way, it's again a high-stakes match here in the Stadion am Brentanobad, neither side wanting to give an inch. After Wolfsburg's win, come from behind 3-1 victory against Freiburg on Friday night, Bayern saw their lead at the top cut to 3. A win tonight restores it to 6, which is the status quo they want to maintain heading into the winter break, which is only a couple of weeks away now. Franziska Kett. Shot blocked, but Boo first to the loose ball. Plenty of white shirts in the box to aim for. Boo burst in there herself, but crowded out in the end. Franziska Kett, a star on the rise for club and country. Ever since her shift to wing-back roles, and I can't even say left-back because she's played at right-back as well. But having ultimately broken through as a more advanced player, she's now really carved out a reputation as a formidable wing-back. Freigang, the pass round the corner from Mehmeti, just overcooked. Angle worked against the Kosovan. Freigang frustrated perhaps that she didn't really commit there. Linda Dahlmann had stayed down after this crunching challenge from Greve, who went a touch over the ball, but in the end, I think, as you can see, Karolina Wacker made it quite clear, the referee, that the ball had been played. Ref cam giving us that wonderful extra angle of tonight's action. I mean, a few complaints from the stands there. How on earth you can complain about that decision? I mean, Zent's nowhere close to getting to the ball, completely hacking at the ankles of Ariana Caruso. One of the clearest fouls, and arguably strong case to be made for a yellow card there for Elisa Zent. Perhaps fortunate to escape a booking. Reuteler, touch, almost got away from her. Long ball goes astray for Frankfurt and gives possession back to the 3-time defending champions, who this season could join Wolfsburg and 1. FFC Frankfurt as the joint record title holders in the Frauen-Bundesliga era if they can defend their title and clinch it for a 4th straight season in what is Jose Barkler's debut campaign on the hot seat. He had big shoes to fill after Alexander Strauss left to move stateside. But for that blamage, as they would say here in Germany, but the embarrassing defeat in Barcelona. Bayern really look like they're at the top of the game under their new head coach. And arguably they're still not the finished product. But he has talked Barkler about being a head coach who wants his side to create moments that people remember, magic moments. He also wants his team to live by their own identity, in his words. Now, I've mentioned the embarrassing defeat to Barcelona. It's also worth mentioning that since then, Bayern have won 3 straight in the Women's Champions League. They sit 5th in the league phase, and those 3 wins include victory, a come from behind stunning 3-2 win against the reigning title holders Arsenal. The Allianz Arena opening its doors, and Bayern were 2-0 down at half-time of that game, but produced a stunning comeback on home soil that included a pretty eye-catching goal from Pernilla Harder in the mix as well, which, if I'm not mistaken, is up for the Goal of the Month award in Bayern ranks, and rightly so. Bayern's remaining 2 games in the Women's Champions League phase against Atletico Madrid. They travel to the Spanish capital after this trip to Germany's financial capital. And also taking on Vålerenga on home soil, the side that handed them a pretty costly result in the Champions League last season. Win both of those games and there's a good chance that Bayern will finish in the top 4 and qualify automatically for the knockout stages without having to go through an extra round of playoff fixtures. That is the aim, though, along with Wolfsburg, their fellow Frauen Bundesliga representatives. Those 2 teams, according to the Ops statistics, were both given the most difficult possible draws in terms of the hardest level of opposition. Bühl. Clara Bühl. She's already got a goal to her name but wants to be unselfish. Ket somehow squeezes the pass out to Bühl. She can't do the same to find the run of Tanikawa, but Ket will win it back, though settles for just putting it out for a throw. Three for company and a cheeky nutmeg from Franziska Ket. And again, along with Bühl, along with Mahmutovic, Franziska Ket, one of those names that likely will feature prominently at Euro 2029 on German soil in 3.5 years' time. Together we rise was the motto of the bid, and it was a successful one in the end. Elisa Zent's lovely burst of pace to turn the corner. Freigang with the little roll back to Mehmeti, who couldn't take it in stride. That's a lovely outlet pass to Pernilla Harder, who then drives into space. She's got Daumann out wide, Damjanovic in the middle. Reuteler covers, but Daumann looking for the cutback. It's going to come to Pernilla Harder. She leaves it for Ariana Caruso. Big appeals for a handball. Caruso gets it back. She looks for Harder now, who's forced wide by the pass. 5 white shirts waiting for the cross. It goes low. Oh, it turned home. Damjanovic doubles Bayern's advantage on the stroke of half-time. Dominant stuff from the league leaders. And their dominance now showing on the score sheet. First goal of the season in the Frauen Bundesliga for Jovana Damjanovic. But this is all about the build-up play from Harder. World-class stuff from Pernilla Harder, who put it on a plate for Damjanovic. A simple finish in the end, and Bayern are 2-0 up at the Stadion am Brentanow-Bad. The handball appeals were waved away, but Bayern didn't stop. They kept the chance alive. Nadine Riesen left for dead by Harder. And Damjanovic with a poacher's finish. Breathing room for Bayern fashioned on the stroke of half-time, and we've got 2 minutes of time added on. Real quality about both goals as well. The passing move for the first that went from back to front in the space of about 5 or 6 passes, and then a quality finish from Bühl. That one was all about the never say die attitude. The relentless pressure from Bayern, and then the class of Pernilla Harder. final chance of the first half might go Bayern's way if they can fashion it. Lovely little 1-2, Harder and Bül. Tanikawa, Damjanovic, Dahlmann through the middle. Bül goes alone, looks for Harder! Oh! It is just that easy when you are just that good sometimes. Like a hot knife through butter. Bayern at the end of this first half putting Eintracht Frankfurt to the sword. The combination play, Harder and Bül, Bül and Harder, and a supreme finish at the end of it. And Bayern are 3-0 up as the half-time whistle goes at the Stadion am Brentanobad. 3 goals of real quality. A clash of 2 of German football's elite. But Bayern are now making it look easy against Eintracht Frankfurt. Pernilla Harder makes it 3-0 with the final kick of the first half. Something tells me Bayern won't exactly take their foot off the pedal after the restart. Bül got the ball rolling. Harder set up Damjanovic for the second, and then Bül set up Harder for the third. Bayern really showing their quality, and at the break it's Frankfurt 0, Bayern 3.
Oh ja, komm. Mega. Dankeschön.
Das macht ja lieber hier so ein paar Erdbeeren.
Hä?
Stattdessen machst du ja lieber ein paar Erdbeeren.
Ja, das hier mit dem Ding, das funktioniert nicht so ganz.
Danke dir. Sag mal, bin ich eine alte Frau oder was? Everyone is watching you today. Ja, alles klar. Jona, dann komm mit. Auf geht's. Aufpassen, Rutschig. Super. Darf ich dich ein bisschen, ich gebe dir den Ball, okay? So, und dann gehen wir. Super machst du das. Klasse. So, mit mir mitkommen. Super. Das machst du ganz toll, Jona. So. Du darfst den Ball schon mal hinlegen. Danke dir. So. Dann grüßen wir unsere Gäste. Einmal alle zuwinken. Und jetzt sind wir noch ein Papa, okay? Bis mal ein Papa. Super! Klasse! Du darfst bei mir bleiben, okay? Super. Die Kids dürfen gehen, du bleibst bei mir. Super. Er bleibt bei mir. So, Gast, ihr Geduld. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Mal gucken, Laura klappt bestimmt wieder ab. Oder auch nicht. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel. So, wir machen einmal noch positionieren. Einmal. So. Einmal nochmal hi, schön dich zu sehen. Schön dich zu sehen. Ich habe, schön, dass du da bist. Social choice between Kita and living support. You take blue, okay, green. Grün für dich. Einmal. So, aufpassen. Grün gewinnt. Alles klar, and you have the ball. Take care. Oh, oh, sorry. Take care. Sorry. Viel Erfolg für unser Spiel. Lang. 17. Danke. Aber was ist gelb? Ball! Ich stehe ganz am Ball. Außerhalb. Nein, nein, das ist keine Absicht. Normale Ja. 9. Und für mich war definitiv kein strafbares Handspiel, weil die hat die Arme so. 21. Danke dir. Danke dir. Oh, sorry, das war vor Hund.
Hello and welcome back everyone to the Stadion am Brentanobad on this Sunday evening at the end of a big week for German women's football. And this was a high stakes match. We were expecting big things and Bayern are delivering. But it's a rather one-sided highlight act here with the league leaders and the three-time defending champions 3-0 up at the break. It looked like we were going to go in with just a goal in it at half-time, but 2 goals shortly before the intermittents, and Bayern find themselves in a rather commanding position as they look to maintain their 6-point lead at the top of the Frauen-Bundesliga. They're making a change at half-time as well. Linda Dahlmann had her part to play in a couple of the goals. She comes off though to be replaced by Alara. Now the fact is, it is raining, it is pouring, but nobody is snoring because Bayern are putting on a show at the Stadion am Brentanobad. 3-0 up, the league leaders find themselves in a very comfortable position coming into this second half, but they won't want to let up at all against the Frankfurt side, who have real quality, and already you can see the intent from the visitors, immediately putting themselves on the front foot, immediately sending the message to Frankfurt, there will be no let-up. Franziska Kett to the byline. They scored 2 goals in the stroke of half-time. They're looking to add a third right after the restart. James Surrogate, your match commentator. And as always, delighted to have the pleasure of your company. It might be 3-0 to Bayern. Make no mistake, this will still be an entertaining second half. Reuteler finding Freigang. Cross is a touch scuffed and goes low, and Yomi can't make anything of it. Well, the best thing to do is pretend it's 0-0. I'm sure that'll have been one of the messages for Nico Arnautis during his half-time team talk. Because if you pretend it's 0-0 and maybe Frankfurt get the first goal of this second half, then it can spark something. Even against a team of Bayern's qualities. They are but human after all. Caruso taken out by Anyomi on that occasion. Anyomi, who had the best chance of the first half for Eintracht Frankfurt, hitting the bar with a header from the edge of the 6-yard box. Unfortunately for Frankfurt, in the same way she did for Germany, unable to produce the clinical touch. Here come Bayern with Bühl. Damjanovic waits. Damjanovic! It's a quick fire double for Jovana Damjanovic either side of the half-time break, and Bayern go from a comfortable position to a commanding one in this high-stakes match in the financial capital. Damjanovic fed Bühl, and Bühl returned the favour. In the end, it's a clipped effort. Altenburg with a touch to the ball, but not enough to turn it around the post. And if Eintracht Frankfurt were hoping to find the first goal and maybe spark a comeback, well, those hopes snuffed out by the 3-time defending champions. Another assist for Bühl. That's 1 goal, 2 assists for her today, in case you're not keeping track. That makes it 5 goals and 13 assists in the Frauen-Bundesliga this season. 18 goal involvements. Outrageous numbers being put up by Clara Bühl. A bit of an elbow to the face there for Julia Gwynn, but there was nothing on toward in it from Nicole Anyomi, her Germany international teammate. Julia Gvin, who will be in the prime of her footballing career, providing injuries don't exact a toll when Euro 2029 rolls around. Germany captain, a chance to captain her home side in a tournament on home soil, something that not many players can boast during their careers, but Gvin, one of the best right backs around in women's football. Caruso. Damjanovic trying to back down Nadine Riesen. Pointing out that Bayern making that change at half-time. Alara coming on for Linda Dahlmann. Alara's quality's not needed to make it 4-0, but she'll be the type of player that will still provide a threat and look for a fifth and a sixth. Now harder. Kaver goes diving in and just about gets the ball, but that was a hairy moment for Lisanne Kaver. Now Zent's under pressure. Squeezes a pass out to Ries and goes back to Altenburg. Veit just blocking off the press from Damjanovic. Just about a clean challenge. One of those where she's just trying to get the foot in front of the ball. Does take out harder in the process. Fair decision on that occasion by the referee, Karolina Wacker. Would have loved to get the ref's view of that particular one. She is wearing the ref cam this evening. It's given us a wonderful angle on certain highlight moments. Corner comes in for Frankfurt. Gvin with the header clear. Greve on the volley, but that was always rising. A chance to just marvel in the brilliance of Clara Bühl, but this was rather simple work for a player of her standards. In all honesty, life not made difficult enough for her out wide, and when you do that, even a team like Frankfurt will be punished. Sometimes when Bühl is beating you all ends up, that's the only real way to deal with her talents. With The fact is, this is a Bayern side, even at 4-0 up. Yes, they will be breathing comfortably, but make no mistake, the hunger for more goals, the hunger for a big win will not be satiated. Not yet, at least. Alara, forced backwards. Neat pass to Caruso, overlapping run from Kvin. Julian Kvin teases it in. Tanikawa! And saved by Altenburg. One of the few saves that the young keeper has had to make tonight. She's had to pick the ball out of her net more often than she's made the save. One of those tough experiences that goalkeepers can sometimes face against this Bayern Munchen side. And at times this season, in the Jose Barcola, they've won without being at their best. Tonight, this is certainly one of the most complete performances that the league leaders have produced. But now, a chance at a riposte from Frankfurt, but denied by Mahmutovic, who might even get an assist now at the other end. Tanikawa. Harder insider, little 1-2, little dummy. Oh, Damjanovic with the chance for a hat-trick! Oh, Harder takes it off her and might have just quashed a highlight moment. Oh, that was glorious. They had Frankfurt on strings, the Bayern front line. Just brilliant, inventive play. No offside against Damjanovic. Oh no, there's no offside against Harder either. She's certainly behind the ball. That should have been a goal. That should be 5-0. That's a mistake by the lineswoman on this near side. Forgivable at 4-0 up for Bayern. If this had been a tense, a tighter affair, then there might have been a few more frustrated looks in the Bayern dugout, but that really was a goal of the highest quality, and unfortunately it's one that will not stand. We see so many wonderful individual efforts, you know, long shots from range that find the top corner. That was one of the best team goals you'll see all season, and unfortunately feature in any highlight reels. It won't feature in any goal of the season compilations because the flag was raised. Looking to combine with Harder again. They're just picking their passes now. Bayern. Boo looking for Damjanovic, and a vital interception from Yelovite. I don't know who to be frustrated more with for the goal that got chalked off the lineswoman who raised the flag for what was clearly not an offside, or Pernilla Harder for even making the situation one that the linesman felt she had to act in, and Damjanovic denied a hat-trick. Now Boo with the corner. Oh, Caruso underneath it, and Harder with a scrappy half chance at the back post. Turned away. Now with a 4-goal cushion, 2 changes. Caroline Simon making her return from a stint on the treatment table, and a wonderful moment for Barbara Dunst. An emotional moment for her as well. She left Eintracht Frankfurt in the summer to join Bayern. Really been able to feature regularly due to a nasty knee injury suffered. A couple of substitute appearances here and there, but due to that knee injury, she never really got to say goodbye here at the Stadion am Brentanobaden. Tonight she has to do it as a Bayern player, but still a moment to savour. And after the match, a moment I'm sure she will take to say goodbye to the home fans. 6 years she spent in Germany's financial capital. Enjoyed some real highlight moments with Eintracht Frankfurt, got them back into Europe, had them top of the table at the halfway stage of last season in the Frauen-Bundesliga. She ultimately, though, wants a chance to really compete with Europe's elite, and Bayern afford that opportunity in a way that Eintracht Frankfurt can't, because unfortunately, once again this season, they missed out on Champions League qualification, lost their qualifier against Real Madrid. No shame in that defeat. Lara felt she had picked the pockets legally. Carolina Vaca did not agree. She's so convinced, though, you tend to believe her. Unfortunately, that's not how referees work. Claude is the captain, doing the duties of defending Lara's case, but let's take a look at this. Yeah, you know what, that's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, she does kind of trick Riesen at the same time, and it's perhaps the type of challenge she didn't really need to make, but you can understand why she feels that she shouldn't have been penalised, and Claudius talked herself into a booking, which surprises me given the fact that she is allowed to as the captain. She's meant to, in fact, as the captain, be the point of contact, but she joins Lara in the book. And now Mehmeti. She had a free kick in this type of position at the other end of the pitch in the first half. Sent it over the bar. This time she's looking for a teammate. It's deft. It's not dealt with. And Zentz strikes wide. A rare moment to give the home fans something to get excited about. We had that one little power play phase from Frankfurt in the first half at 1-0 down. They showed real ambition and bravery in a high press. They forced some mistakes out of the Bayern backline. A Mahmutovic errant pass. There was a poor pass from Franziska Kett, and then there was a strike of the woodwork from a Nicole Anyomi header. But unfortunately, after that power play phase that lasted probably about 10, maybe 15 minutes if we're being generous, it's been all Bayern. Jose Barcola, something tells me he will be mightily pleased with what his side have produced here this evening in what is one of their toughest fixtures of every season, up there with the trip to Wolfsburg to take on the She-Wolves, this tie against the She-Gulls. Mehmeti flitting between the lines, given the chance to strike, and just drags the effort wide. Scored a pretty memorable goal in the DFB Pokal der Frauen last season, one which ended Wolfsburg's record-breaking run of 52 wins and 10 straight titles. Scored a couple of goals already as an Eintracht Frankfurt player since joining the club in the summer. Tonight has not been her night, though, to add to the efforts against Leipzig and Freiburg in the Frauen-Bundesliga. Lovely ball out wide for the run of Barbara Dunst. Clipped in. Oh, it's off the post. Oh, so close to an own goal from Riesen. That really would have been salt to rub in the Frankfurt wounds. Would have underlined the subplot of tonight's showdown as well, which is that Frankfurt have actually proven their own worst enemy at times. Get away with it on that occasion. It's a really cheeky pass into the danger area. For the second time tonight, Bayern hit the post. Free kick goes long, and Altenburg will be relieved that she wasn't under more pressure there as she plucked that one out of the air. Just over an hour played, and while you felt like if Frankfurt got a goal back early in the second half, they could maybe inject a little bit more tension into proceedings, the goal scored early in the second half by Bayern has really put the game beyond doubt, it feels. Alara. Bayern looking for a fifth. Squeeze through. A scoreline befitting of a five-star performance from the league leaders. But again, Frankfurt shooting themselves in the foot. This time it's Laura Freigang losing out in a ill-advised area. And Alara, well, there was really only one thought on her mind. She gets her third of the season. Keeps scoring in the big games. She got one against Wolfsburg, one against Hoffenheim, and now one against Frankfurt. One of the stars of the future for Bayern and for Germany. Not the most eye-catching goal that she has or ever will score in her career. But if you don't shoot, you don't score.
Eintracht wird einfach wechseln.
German champions, only FCB. The chant now from the travelling fans from the snowy south. Tonight it's been wet and windy, but no snow in sight.
Ja, okay. War ich ja auch eben.
Harder. Driven in, Altenburg collects. Damjanovic, the first line of defence, forces the mistake out of Frankfurt. Pernilla Harder's on the run, she's got Dunst to her left, Damjanovic in support too. Harder goes at a low little burst of pace. Brilliant play by Harder. If anything, she would have deserved taking a shot herself there. Maybe trying to atone for the goal that her involvement denied Damjanovic and Bayern. There's really no pass on. Still has that burst of pace to beat anyone. Wholesale changes made for Frankfurt, 3 in total. We'll go through those substitutions in a minute after the corner. Meanwhile, Stina Balisaya is on for Anjo Dunst. Caruso. Now Alara. There was no clean shot in the mix for Bayern, despite their best efforts to carve it out. And there's a counter on for Frankfurt if Anjomi has the Hollywood pass in her. And she does. Lovely pass to pick out Freigang, who's able to turn. She feeds Greve. 3 in the middle to aim for Greve. Hangs it up, but Mehmeti can't get there. Altenburg gets there ahead of Damjanovic. Just under 20 minutes of normal time remaining. She'd love a chance at her hat-trick, which would be quite the turn of events given the fact that she hadn't scored in the Frauen-Bundesliga before tonight, Jovana Damjanovic. Now we see the triple change for Eintracht Frankfurt. It is Noemi Ivelge, Hayley Rasso and Elida Adjigers coming on. Amanda Illerstedt, Elisa Zentz. I believe it was Geraldine Reuteler, the 3 to make way. There it is, confirmation the Swiss international was indeed the 3rd and final change. Their confirmation that Pernilla Harder been given a rest for the closing exchanges here as Balisaya comes on. Seems like she's slotted into holding midfield alongside Ariana Caruso, perhaps allowing Momoko Tanikawa to shift a little bit further up the pitch from the deeper role she was asked to play tonight. Back to yellow fight. One of those nights that will feel like a very steep learning curve for Eintracht Frankfurt, but considering the quotes that we heard from Nico Arnautis where he alluded to the fact that his side have kept games tight against Bayern in recent years and that gave him the belief that they could maybe go one better. A tonight they have really been put in their place. A harsh reality check for Eintracht Frankfurt of the fact that they do seem to have taken a step back this season. And in particular, that's because of the defensive department. Their attack is still packed full of quality in midfield and up front. They can't tap into it there. But it's at the back they've really suffered in the transfer window in the summer. The replacements for big names didn't really match up. And that defensive vulnerability has been exposed tonight by Bayern, as Damjanovic is not going to get a chance at a hat-trick. Although, no, never mind. It's not Damjanovic coming off. It's Cloris Vigosdottir in a like-for-like change for Vanessa Gilles. Damjanovic just wants a high five. Let's go Frankfurt, fight and win. Well, they haven't really put up the fight, and they certainly aren't going to win tonight. Next up for Eintracht Frankfurt, they've actually got a midweek fixture because they had to postpone their matchday 11 encounter before the international break due to their Europa Cup duties against PSV Eindhoven. A tie they won 5-2 on aggregate to book a ticket to the Europa Cup quarter-finals against North Zealand. Right now you have to think that Eintracht Frankfurt, one of the favourites in that competition, along with Inter Milan and Sporting. Unfortunately, the other competition where the prize money really doesn't match up to the efforts and the energy expended. That trip to Nuremberg in midweek, then followed by a trip to the capital against Union Berlin, two newly promoted sides. Frankfurt with a chance to get back to winning ways quickly. And that will mark the end of the Hinrunde, which is the name given here in Germany for the first half of the season. The beautiful thing about the German football fixture list, whether it be in the men's game or the women's game, is that the first half of the season fixtures are completely mirrored in the second half of the season. We've got one game to kick off the Rückrunde before the winter break. Matchday 14, Eintracht Frankfurt will be on the road against SGS Essen, so they close out 2025 with a 3-game road trip, the She-Eagles. The three teams that they will fancy taking all 3 points off of. And then the winter break kicks in before we return in January. I think it's fair to say one of those sideline mics a little too close to the Frankfurt dugout, because many a time tonight we've heard the complaints coming from the She-Eagles ranks. I mean, that's a foul as well by Anyomi on Caruso. Not given. Romina Chiba and Jana Tulings coming on for the home side. Nadine Riesen gets the captain's armband. And Yomi brought off as well. The big what-if moment of this game. Nicole Anyomi's first half header that hit the crossbar when Eintracht Frankfurt were just 1-0 down. If that goes in, maybe this game plays out differently. But Bayern survived that scare and have since pushed on. Confirmation that the Stadion am Brenntanobar is sold out tonight. Unfortunately, the sold out crowd have not got what they hoped for. The majority of them, at least, because of course there is a crop of Bayern fans in the mix as well that will certainly be delighted with the 5 goals scored and the complete performance their side have produced tonight. $5,750 fans in attendance, in case you were wondering what the capacity was at the Stadion am Brentanobad. They might have a few more groans to give if Bayern can find a 6th. Julia Gwynn asked a lot of Damjanovic with that pass. Too much in the end. Bayern, as mentioned, oh, you know what, I'll hold the thought because we're looking at the Frankfurt fixtures first, so we might as well go over those again. As mentioned, closing out 2025 with that 3-game road trip: Nuremberg, Union Berlin, Essen, all sides in the relegation battle, all sides where Eintracht Frankfurt will be heavy favourites. A chance to end the calendar year in strong form, even if it has been a patchy start to this season. For Bayern, they've got the trip to Madrid to face Atletico Madrid in the Women's Champions League, then the home game against Hamburg, then the home game against Vålerenga, before the trip to Leverkusen to close out the year on match day 14. A rerun of the record-breaking match we had on match day 1 here in the Frauen Bundesliga. The Allianz Arena opened its doors, and a domestic record was set for a women's football match. 57,762 in attendance on that occasion to see Bayern dig deep to produce a 2-0 win. One of those games where they weren't at their best, but then again that was their first under Jose Barclay in the Frauen Bundesliga, so of course they weren't going to be the finished product on match day 1, but on that occasion it was a certain Clara Buhl who came off the bench, if I remember correctly, to completely change the game. Half-time substitutes, and she set up Vanessa Gilles for the first goal, and less than 2 minutes later she scored a goal of her own, a quick-fire double for Bayern that saw them win out in front of that record-breaking crowd. Frankfurt would love a consolation effort, but it really would be nothing more than that. Otherwise it's going to be an 8th clean sheet in 12 league games for Bayern. A formidable defensive record. But for a 15-minute spell tonight hasn't really been tested. Regards, Bayern are just going through the motions here, and yet they are still in complete control of this game, and that's something that Frankfurt simply haven't done enough of tonight. Break the grip on the game that Bayern have established. Caroline Simon. Whips it in. Oh, lovely header from Gilles, and she's denied a return to goal-scoring ways, the Canadian. Burst onto the scene, Vanessa Gilles, the Olympic gold medalist, with 3 goals in some of her early appearances for Bayern. Scored the opener in front of that record-breaking crowd at the Allianz Arena on match day 1 against Leverkusen. Added goals from corners and headers against Leipzig and Freiburg, and almost got a 4th of the season there. And would have if Nadine Riesen, the new Frankfurt captain, wasn't in the right place at the right time, whether she knew much about it or not. For now, though, Bayern 1-6. Damjanovic doesn't go for a hat-trick. She was looking to return the pass to Tanikawa, but the degree of difficulty in execution a touch too high, as was the pass. And this result is a significant one for Bayern, because this was arguably their biggest league game remaining in 2025. And after Wolfsburg's win against Freiburg on Friday night, what they couldn't afford to do was even give the She-Wolves a sliver of hope of maybe closing the gap in the title race. You have to think in the current campaign, with the current form Bayern are producing, a 6-point lead at the halfway stage of the season might be insurmountable, because this is a special team producing a special season, and right now they look unbeatable. The only team to take points off them, funny enough, Carl Zeiss Jena, in a 0-0 draw where they just couldn't find the goal. Tonight they've got 5, Bayern, and they could have had more. Frankfurt just want 1 to show for their efforts tonight. A real energy sapping outing against the league leaders. A confidence sapping one as well. Which is why any morsel would go a long, long way. Sideline microphones did us a favour there. It sounded like we're going to have 4 minutes of time added on at the end of this second half. And truth be told, despite the disappointing result, credit to the home crowd for the atmosphere they've drummed up. The Stadion am Brentano sold out. Unfortunately, the home side didn't quite live up to the billing. The distinct lack of something to cheer will not have gone unnoticed. 4 minutes of time added on at the end of the 90 confirmed. A little early, truth be told. Normally you don't see the fourth officials board flash up so quickly, given the fact that we have over a minute of normal time remaining when it did flash up, but nothing to change the calculations. And truth be told, these 4 minutes are likely to play out the way that the last 10 or 15 have. With Bayern in second gear, Eintracht Frankfurt flat-footed and not really forcing the issue. Their focus now turns to that midweek game against Nuremberg, and there's a little bit of energy conservation going on. They had the intensity early, but they never really had enough in the locker to match Bayern. And again, Bayern really did dip into their world-class quality, individual and collective. Whether it was Clara Bull, Damjanovic, Pernilla Harder, Tanikawa, Caruso, they've all played their part tonight. And while they have taken their foot off the pedal, I really do believe that Jose Barcola will look at this as one of Bayern's most complete performances since he took charge, and maintain these levels, and they really will be unbeatable this season. Chant of Munich's true love, FC Bayern. They're relishing the success. The Bayern fans, as Alara is taken out by a rather robust challenge, and the cross came in, plucked out of the air by Altenburg, but I believe the play has been brought back for the foul. Unceremonious there from Elida Achigers. Not wanting to give Alara time to turn. That's a rough one though. Teased in, Shield is there, but it's a tame header. Now she can definitely do better. She'll be the first to tell you that. Such a threat from set piece situations though, because the hunger to get on the end of every ball into the box is huge for Vanessa Gilles. What a pickup she's proven for Bayern. Said she was a little bit sad to leave Lyon, but clearly has found a good home for herself in Munich. There's a you can maybe hear it in the background, a chant going to the tune of Last Christmas right now. Not easy to make out. Christmas is fast approaching, the winter break too. And this is a statement win from Bayern. Bayern Munchen maintain that their 6-point lead at the top of the Frauen Bundesliga. In Jose Barcola's debut season on the hot seat, at times they've won when they haven't been at their best. Tonight though, they were at their very best. A 5-star performance, goals scored by Clara Bull, Pernilla Harder, Alara, and a double from Damjanovic, but there could have been more. A real statement victory for the three-time defending champions. Their most complete performance of the season. And the final score, Frankfurt 0, Bayern 5. Eintracht Frankfurt would have been hoping for a much more respectable result. But when Bayern are at their best, they are difficult to stop, and that's what they proved tonight. Some real world-class play from the Bavarians.